All right, welcome to the second to last of this whole format of reading the Parinama Method, the book cover to cover. Here we go. So for this reading, what I'm going to do is actually we're at the end of chapter 12, which is the manifesting practices, and it's the descending order. And we're going to read a little bit. Let's see, where is it? I have to find it. I closed the book. Good Lord, why is it so hard to find? Boop-bitty boop. All right, let's see, here we go. Okay, so we're at the physical symbol, which is the last section of the Parinama book. And so after this format, where I'm reading the book cover to cover as a supplement for anyone who's looking to read the book, I think one of the something that's really I want to kind of emphasize, like underline and bold, is that this is a hard book to read. And that's because it's not really a book. It's more like a text. And as a result of that, it's a practice. So, the idea of this being like a good book for sort of like taking to the beach and reading, like I'd probably not do that. First of all, it's really heavy. It's more like a book that you have like a journal with. It's a book that works better for just reading one section. I'm not even talking a page. I'm talking about read one section and kind of allow it to kind of, sort of marinate and to contemplate and sort of work through it and do your practices. And just there's a cumulative effect of doing this practice. And we're going to talk a little bit about the ascending pathway, that's like the entire book for the most part, and then the descending, which is chapter 12, which we're wrapping up here, and just do a bit of a summary about the hows and the whys on a high level overview about what each of these things represent. And then we'll read physical symbol. The last section I'm going to do is going to be the bibliography and the acknowledgments, and specifically as kind of a like wrapping up the kind of the original intent of doing these readings, which was to be like a director's cut, like a director's commentary on it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about those as they sort of exist in terms of the production of a book, and even just like sort of as they were the last things that were like completed before the manuscript went out to design and layout. That there's kind of some stuff about that. I'll talk about it. But anyway, so for today, we're going to finish up the manifesting and creating section. I'm going to fix my hair up a little bit. I'm feeling like we got to do some, I look a little sleepy. So what's happening? Yeah. Oof. My back. Crack. It's going to settle in. All right. What's going on with me today? I feel like okay. I think that sort of gets the job done. It's hard because this is like backwards. It's like reverse mirrored. So, okay, let's talk about it. So full disclosure, I had recorded this, I read this, and I did it on the wrong channel. So this is a repeat for me. For anybody watching this, it just seems probably like I went a long time without doing a live. And also, there's the new format of how I'm going to be doing this practice. It's going to be scheduled. There's going to be an actual like structure to it, is going to very likely start next week. So let's get into it. Let's finish this up. Let's finish these readings and talk about where we are in the creating and building section of this, and also talk a little bit about why so much of the Parinama method is dedicated to the ascending pathway. So starting from the, what is it? Self-actualization, traveling through self-actualization, and revisiting, restructuring, and working through those components of our like psychology, of our body, of our reflexes, our emotions, our thoughts. And so once we get to this like relatively short section, which is one chapter, chapter 12, which is arguably the section that I have the most like jurisdiction over in terms of having done. And so like my expertise or my life experience lends more to like creating and building things. But most of the book is not about that, for the simple reason that when we're doing this pathway, and if this is, we're starting from for creation, like with finding the idea in the seventh hub. And that involves being really spacious and like entering into inquiry where we're asking questions and we're working on being really receptive to answers. Let's see. I want to think about the right way to kind of like talk about this. So, okay, yeah, let's talk. I'm going to talk about it this way. So, in the creating and building, we start with inquiry. We start with not knowing, and we start with questions. So it begins with questions. It begins with the like when you're trying to create something, which is it's like, okay, what is my purpose? Like however big it is, start big. And just really like the key thing with this question is that you don't have the answer for it, which is really unnervy. And it's very like counter to how most of us are raised, which is just that to be good at like having correct answers, but like knowing how to ask questions and even knowing how to like exist not knowing and waiting for something to kind of come through isn't something that we're really trained to do. It's kind of like, like it's like kind of the whole notion that it's like anxiety producing to be in class and called on and not have the answer, like the anxiety dream kind of thing. So you think about like tuning a nervous system to be avoiding distress. It's like, like we accidentally or not accidentally tune ourselves to be really nervous about not having answers. So in the seventh hub, we start with really tuning the ability to just stay in spaciousness, stay in sort of a area that is like uncluttered, that doesn't have a meal already cooking in it, is like really open for sort of new things to land in it and to just be able to exist in that. And our receptivity to looking for signs and feeling the resonance with things when they're pointing us in the right direction. So if it's like all of a sudden somebody recommends a book and you go, I'm weirdly interested in that, I actually want to read that, or podcast or a social media clip, and you go, oh, that's like there's something there. And so I imagine what this feels like. And I imagine you also know that the more you're in your authenticity, the faster this stuff, like the momentum with this stuff works. It's just it like comes faster and is like more apparent when we're receptive to it. So that's the phase. I find it really unnerving. I've talked before about like how when I was working on Parinama, it was the most spacious I'd ever been. And I actually started taking consulting gigs just to be doing stuff. And then that was like interfering with my ability to actually like produce and write and execute this tome we have here. So I wrestled with that. And one of the reasons, so this is a good place to kind of say, like, this is why we do the self-actualization pathway first, which is working on the components of our nervous system so that when we're in this, for whatever reason, I'm not feeling super articulate today, which is kind of a bummer, but let's see. Let me find it. Let me find the thread here. Yeah, I'm not feeling super articulate, but I'm going to keep going. We'll see. Hopefully we'll start to like catch or whatever it is, like get purchase here on this. So I'll go back to talking about the manifestation channel and maybe like see what happens. Is that so first we're like in ideation, and then in the sixth hub, what we do is we just continue to refine and like kind of pixelate and as it sort of comes in, as the vision comes in. So it's like we ask the question, we're receptive, and then even refining questions come in. And in this space is where we figure out who we are as it relates to what we're creating. So this is part of this is like finding the connection that is going to bring a certain type of energy and purpose and meaning into what it is that we're building and we're creating. So we're finding, it's like tracking patterns. And so in chapter 12, if you're following along, is those exercises of figuring out like, why is this calling to me and how does this connect with who I've always been? And then, as we descend, we continue to like densify our vision. And one of the things about manifestation and creation is that, as discussed previously, there tends to be like a real, like two schools. One is like be really expansive and have like massive concepts, and the other is like execution. And they're both right. Together, they're like these complementary opposites. When brought together, they alchemize and they create things that are new in the world. But one of the qualities that's really important to keep in mind is that what we're doing is we're taking something out of our singular experience and expanding it into being a shared experience with other people and being out in the world. And this is part of why, once we get down to the fifth hub, which is about speaking and communicating and even creating, is we're finding the words so that we can connect with others and we can begin to refine even our own understanding of what we're doing by bouncing it off other people and beginning this process of starting to collaborate and engage with people, which is a fourth hub practice. And so in the fourth hub, what we're doing is we're beginning to, with our words, with our communication, begin to enroll the right people and even figure out who it is that we intend to be working with as we're doing our like creating and building our project. Like, who's our team? Who's the team of people that will come together and, and be able to do the things that we don't know how to do, inspire us and like activate us and all the great things that collaboration offers. And then in the third hub, we get into straight up execution. Just, it's like very practical. Yeah, I want to relook at it. Yeah, like tasks, accountability, planning, handling obstacles and distractions, delegating. Yeah, it's like classic execution stuff. And then in the second hub, it's about resonance, like our emotional literacy, being able to understand why what we're doing matters to other people, being able to manage our own feelings as they're coming up throughout this process and making it fun, like bringing the energy into it of joy. And like, even I would say that the connection, the second hub, is also connecting to like the upper hubs, which is connecting to like the original, like our original connection to who we are as it relates to the project, and also being able to iterate so that we're working to be something that makes sense for other people in the world. Because if you want it to just be your vision, the thing that you want, then it doesn't need to be manifested. Like, I know people be like, yeah, but I need to, make money or whatever. It's like, no, you don't. Well, yes, maybe you need to make money. But the point is, like, in the creating and building process, the thing that people will give you money for are things that actually make sense to them, that they experience as being valuable, things that activate them energetically, that make them feel like something's going to be solved for them or something's going to become joyful for them, or more like, or like all of the needs that exist as a human being. But there needs to be resonance. So it can't just be your idea of how something's supposed to be. It also has to be something, as we bridge the gap. Yeah, in the first video, I went really into this, and I think it might be, I think part of the reason I'm a little bit flat on this is because because I really put a lot into that other I really, like, spoke into that last to the last that, like, one that I did on my on the wrong channel. So I think I'm kinda like, "Yeah, no, I think I've already said all of this." But anyway, so and now the last hub is, like, kind of the boring, like, drudgery part, which is just, like, repetition, like fulfilling commitments, getting real about limitations. I mean, one thing that people, you going back to that dichotomy of like the really expansive upper hubs um and then the sort of the more grounded, dense lower hubs of creation is that like you can't have it all. It's not like, the whole thing is like the upper hubs are like standing at the ice cream flavor board and being like, I can have it all. And the actual execution is like, oh, it's pistachio. Like they're literally, it's like if you want to taste the ice cream, if you actually want to have the physical experience with it, if you want to be able to share it in the world, if you want it to become like so-called like a physical reality, a shared physical reality, there's just this kind of thing about having to make choices that like forsake other things. Like for example, just what I was talking about is writing the book, that I couldn't do other stuff. I mean, look, if you see this thing, it's like kind of obvious that it's all encompassing. But a bigger point here that I would make would be that to create something, the focus of that I'd even call like maybe third, second, first hub, is that it's like a focusing of effort and attention on a very specific outcome. And it's part where you've got like new age people. This is actually a really good place where you see like new age people and like so-called conventional professional people having like a real like kind of impasse and almost in a way like not respecting each other because they're like, you don't get it, you don't get it. And where it's like, no, together it's just a whole thing. Together it's like, so the ideas, the like limitless possibilities, the like what like the what just massive expansive is is an important part of like gathering the energy and drawing on the inspiration, but the actual execution is like kind of unfun in in this very particular way, of that it really requires that it's not limitless possibilities, it's kind of one, it's really one possibility in a sense. I mean, yeah, and it's simplifying it, but it's really drilling this down. So, first hub is, as Anna Dea Judith, who's one of my teachers, says, is that like new age people have like an unrealistic attachment to freedom in this in a very childish way, like that freedom means like no commitments, but actually the freedom that comes from being able to really actualize an expression of something that's like calling to you, that's inside you, that represents your integrity, is a liberation. So it's like freedom versus liberation. Like freedom being like, I don't have to do anything I don't want, and liberation actually being like sort of a crucible of alchemy, where it's like the coming through. Yeah, I think that's actually really good. Liberation. Yeah. There we go. So I'm going to read this. I'm going to read this part. Like, so having a physical symbol of your project that you can see or hold can be grounding. A piece of jewelry, a stone, a picture, or a small token object can help to reconnect you to the larger purpose of your work. Even a transition object, as I discussed in the second hub, can be used for soothing. See chapter 5. You can also assign a meaningful symbol to your project that can feel like a wink from creation whenever you see it. Finding money or feathers, or seeing a specific flower or bird, or even seeing something that you aspire to have as a result of this process, all work. The symbols I use are pennies and feathers. So I'll talk a little bit about this. Like I my workspace is like has like altar energy to it. Has a picture of me as a little kid, has money, it has like pretty things on it, gifts from people, like nice little things like oils and candles and lotions and diamonds. Eesh, egg. Yeah, diamonds are like a little over, I think, right? Over. Diamonds are kind of over. But so like the point I make here is that it's like and also very unapologetic. Look, here's another thing. The skull of a Byredo candle, amethyst sculpture, stuff like that, and have it really be the stuff that like has energy for you, that you see it and it's energizing and yeah. Okay, so and I also have like like sort of what I'd call an altar, which has like all sorts of like gifts and pictures and money and stones and beautiful things. And so but that's there's two parts to this. One is that this like sort of intentional creation of these like kind of places that we turn to really focus our vision. Now, the other part is like the symbols, which are for me, it was pennies and money and feathers. And so whenever I'd come across like money, like just found money, um, like I would be like, what was I just thinking about? Because I'd consider that a wink, and, like, every time, without exception, it was, like, the thing I was thinking about, like, the money was, like, an underline. So if I had found pennies or dollars or quarters or whatever and the other thing is finding feathers, which represent, like, change and sort of ascension and all that kinda stuff. So, like, that was kind of the whole thing for me. And so if you don't believe in miracles, so okay, I'm gonna switch gears a little bit here. So if you don't believe in miracles or don't think this process is for you, look at an airplane in the sky, look out the window of a skyscraper, tap on an app to receive a ride, groceries, or any other material pleasure. You're part of the tapestry of creation. And the more engaged you get with knowing your true nature, the more you can access your innate ability to create. Anything that energizes and inspires you acts as your compass, steering you towards your unique brilliance and creation. Keep an aliveness journal or a notes app on your phone. Every time you see something that evokes a feeling, record it. Your emotions, sense of enjoyment, and pleasure are important instruments for accessing charge, purpose, and connection. And it's funny that, like, probably one of the more important aspects of all of this is like just in the last couple sentences here, because like pointing back to the second hub. So we're talking about like the ascension pathway where we're starting with the first hub with physical safety and the feeling of like physical security. And then next we're talking about like emotions and emotional capacity and emotional literacy. And the thing with that is like emotional literacy is that we actually are very in touch and we do not like we stop minimizing or flooding or whatever, and we can actually feel the sparks of joy and understand them as guiding principles that point us to where we can gain access to more energy, more inspiration, the things that like like really give us all the things that we're kind of like, yeah, I don't have energy, I don't have this. It's like, well, emotional capacity is like where that aliveness and that accessing comes from. When people are like, I don't have energy, it's like a lot of this has to do with like a lot of that has to do with like, okay, how much are you nurturing, comforting, and fostering joy? So when you have people that like Chris and Teeb music, let me use this as an example. It's kind of fringe, but you know, you can look it up on Spotify. There, it's like positive affirmation music. And one of the things that, you know, I like with that kind of activation when it's about like positivity, straight up, just like everything's good, everything's perfect, everything, like all those affirmations, is that people will do that when they start out on kind of these types of practices. They'll start out and then they'll be like, everything's perfect, everything's good, I'm perfect, I'm perfect, I'm perfect, everything's good. And then something shitty happens. And they're like, wait, I was doing positive affirmations. Like, why did something bad still happen to me? And so this is something that I think a lot of sort of popular culture is not like, maybe doesn't understand yet, which is that it's actually creating an energy field. It's like those words of like everything is as it should be, and like positive, positive, positive. It's fostering a state. It's not a literal thing that everything is perfect. It's creating a state to create from, and it's creating a state to be able to feel from and see from. And the thing is that like bad things will still happen. It doesn't mean that like cancer stopped existing. It doesn't mean that bombs stopped dropping in Gaza. It doesn't mean that, like racism all of a sudden doesn't exist. Like when you decide, this thing of like, I decide what my consciousness is like, and it's so the thing is like when that's super literal and it's like, I decide, it's like, yes, and there's an extension to that, which is like, it's like, I decide that I'm creating an energy field. I decide that I'm intentionally trying to like raise myself up to be at a like a state of greater feeling. I'm not even going to say joy. It's a state of greater feeling, which is a whole other thing that I think, yeah, it's a whole other thing. But anyway, state of greater feeling. And that by getting into that feeling, our ability to create our lives and not be second guessing when it's a direct feeling where you go, I feel that. There's not like, is this gonna the external validation stuff, like where it's like building the life, buying the outfit that you make, somebody that you like find you more attractive, doing like whatever. It's like what we're really getting into is like, how do you feel what you feel inside? And like and build that capacity. So that's second hub, part of second hub. But yeah, as it relates to this, yeah, I don't have enough juice to go through all the hubs. I did in the last one. It was like really, I thought it was like pretty, like, was like really doing it. Felt really good, but yeah, it's just, it's not for today. It's not for today. So next time. So the final section here, or the final little blurb here on this is page 305 if you're following along the book, is the simultaneous grit and grace of creation can throw off even the most intrepid emblems. Yet there's ease in the sense of following a pursuit that's uniquely your own, along with the satisfying intensity in a crucible of transformation where growth occurs. By facing the trials and tribulations of your shadows and adaptations, and by expanding your dynamism and capacity as you ascend through the hubs of building and creation, there's paradox encountered at every turn, but as I discussed in chapter 13, you're worthy of this pursuit, and as a miracle of creation, what you are called to do matters. Yes. Woo. I feel like, yeah, I think that's one thing that is, I know for sure. I think that was one of the interesting things that came through when I was writing the book, which is that actually, it's just something that just occurred to me because we've technically finished reading the book. Is that when I was writing the book, there was a lot more about it being an offering. Like I was having a process about being an offering, but in this reading, I had the direct experience with it. It's like a totally different. It's really interesting. It actually maps to this, but I don't feel like really capable of talking into it too much. It's just not with me today. So that's it for today. Let's see. Yeah, so the last section I'm going to read on is going to be the bibliography and the acknowledgments, and I'm just going to talk about that as it relates to the experience of finishing the book, the production of the book, and even just some of the like wonky things about what it was like to build this thing out, and the end of it, the end of the experience, and talk to that and just reflect on it as well. So Oh yeah, and the about the author, all this stuff. Even the you know what, I'd even say I'm gonna probably, if I have the wind in my sails, probably read the back of the book too, because writing the back of the book was like, I mean, everything in this is like was like a pretty significant undertaking. Like the back of the book is transformation is the most courageous undertaking of our lives. I always forget about the back of the book. This excruciating yet exquisite process requires introspection that is wholly honest and open about who we are today and about the past that has shaped us. Using science, psychology, and biology, the Parinama method, Transform Everything, a practical and physical guide, provides a framework that anchors and balances you in safety while you access, activate, and optimize the joy, success, love, and accomplishment you seek. Feel more stable, more trusting, and less anxious? Yes. Experience greater levels of achievement in all areas of life? Sure. Discover your life purpose in the deeper layers of your personal identity through self awareness and reveal a greater sense of confidence? Yep. Even when I wrote that, I didn't understand how straight up that was. And that is actually one of the things with this book is that there's a lot about when I wrote it, there's layers in it that are like in terms of my own my own personal process with this. I'm just going to speak from first person here, is that my own experience with it is like deepened what these words mean. Like I know more. So develop better connections, more fulfilling relationships, and greater intimacy with others and yourself. Yes. Underline, bold, like big font, everything. Oof, big time. Anything is possible when you fully accept who you are now, have the honesty to know what you truly want, and take courageous and compassionate action to confront what holds you back. The Parinama method presents a masterful integration of biochemical, biological, and social science research, psychology, somatic, and physical techniques, and business principles and practices. It guides readers through a conscious evaluation of the subconscious programming coded within our bodies in our early years. It cracks the code of what makes us who we are by providing a map of reclamation and self actualization. This is it. And then my little blurb about who I am: was born and raised in a small New Hampshire town, currently lives in Boston, holds a degree in biology. She has also lived in the United Kingdom, India, and Indonesia, and has built high performing sales teams all over the world. Her commitment to the transformation of individuals has led to these teams' commercial success for over 20 years. Katie has studied and practiced yoga and somatic therapeutics under some of the world's leading teachers, which has informed her research and creation of the Parinama Method. Learn more at theparinamamethod.com. Okay, well, so we read the back of the book now. so we don't have to do that next time. So we finished that off. Yeah, hopefully I'll be a little bit more articulate. I don't know what's going on. I was thinking I was going to be like, have my life totally sorted out by this morning, but it is what it is. And as a very Parinama principle, it's like you show up as you are. You show up as you are and you work with it. So there's that. Okay. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you so much. And just a reminder that the 2.0 of Parinama coming up is going to be regularly scheduled and formatted discussions that support reading the book from start to finish. So it's going to be like beginning, but instead of me doing this thing where I just like open the book and this sort of whatever comes out is what comes out, I'm going to be doing a little bit more of a structure that lends itself to each section that we work on being like a practical, like work, I don't know, whatever you call it, practical thing that we do together. And that there's some prep work that's put into it instead of these like low to zero production. I don't know if it's zero production because I did just get a certificate from Canva that I've made 100 graphics. So just, like, what is the word for it? Show some deferential respect for my certification. So, okay. Love you, and I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you, and any interaction, any questions you have, do not hold back. I like hearing what people have to say. Good, bad, ugly, and whatever other options exist, bring it on. And yeah. And I guess I should probably be more like, oh, this is the end, but it's not the end. It's kind of something that's sort of it's like a cycle ending and a new one's gonna pick right back up. That's going to be more refined and kind of more optimized in a different era. So let me think for a second. Yeah. I know, it's funny. I did like kind of thank yous and stuff in the other video. Lost into the universe. All right. I'll see you next time. Appreciate you. Bye for now.